Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and in just a moment we're going to be looking at some hands I played over the weekend, where primarily yesterday on Coin Poker. Every hand except one is going to be a 3-bet pot, and the reason for that is that lately pre-flop my game has been slipping. I've been previously played on some incredibly soft games selecting hard on iPoker, where there was lots and lots of limping going on, tons of multi-way pets, not a lot of pre-flop aggression, etc. And I think my game had just slowly kind of just lapsed into a kind of passive, semi-weak type sort of game. The last video kind of summed that up with some of the hands that I played that I thought, oh, they were a bit shit. So I've been putting some work into pre-flop, starting to try and find more 3-bets, starting to try and find a few more defends versus 3-bets, etc. And just get my game back into reasonable shape pre-flop. Because I truly believe if you're doing pre-flop well, then post-flop tends to fall into line quite nicely. If you're doing pre-flop badly, then you're going to suffer post-flop. You're not going to do as well against recreational players, and you're going to do exponentially worse against semi-decent or decent regulars. So I'm focusing quite a lot on pre-flop at the moment, and just trying to make myself a much more difficult opponent and finding more 3-bets, putting people under more pressure myself, and also not just caving in as quickly as I do to 3-bets too. So I think I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 of these types of videos this week, because at the pre-flop decisions, if you do some work with charts, etc., they become relatively easy quite quickly. Obviously, there's going to be some frequency issues and some sizing issues versus different sizes. So I'm not going to be getting that stuff right, but just kind of choosing the right hands to 3-bet. Not particularly opponent specific, just by using what I've been using to help me is charts from GTO Wizard, the free stuff, and just try to get a better feel for kind of what frequencies there should be 3-bet in which hands, etc. So now I'm not going to be getting it right all the time. Maybe not even getting it right half the time, but I'm going to be getting it right more than I have been lately. And that's what this week's going to be all about. Just recording all of my sessions. Every time I have a 3-bet pot that goes post-flop, going to record that, and then we're going to review it. So there might be a video every couple of days or something like that, depending on how many hands we get. So that's going to be the plan for the week. Before we get into the hands, you will notice I am playing on a site called Coin Poker that not many of you will have seen. I can say with more certainty now than I've been able to say in previous videos that the games are pretty good. Compared to the games most you play, i.e. speed poker, the games are very good. Compared to regular tables on most sites, I would say they compare well with the likes of Unibet. Softer than iPoker, not as soft as Sky. Probably similar to Unibet, but the difference here is if you come and join me on this site, you will get 40% rate back, 30% flat rate back through the clients, and then an extra 10% flat rate back from me and my partner. So yeah, I'm not going to spam any more than that, but please do, if you're thinking about moving sites or you want to give something else another go, you want to get a bit more rate back, etc., please do think about giving it a whirl. I'm starting to notice the better times of days to play, where the traffic's a bit greater, and hopefully I can help the site grow a little bit more, so there won't necessarily be a need to play at certain times for better traffic. So yeah, if you've been thinking about moving site, or if you just want to take a look, then get in touch with me via the methods beneath the video, and I'll be happy to discuss it some more with you and try and help you get onto the site. So without further ado, let's get into the hands. This first hand here, we've talked about this player in the last videos. Fair Play. He's got my orange tag. He's definitely some kind of reg because it multi-tables and plays most days, but he's not pulling any trees up. He's not a spectacular reg, he or she. So we already know what's going to happen. We're going to 3-bet. and our opponent calls. We get the Jack 9-4 flop. Our opponent checks to us, as you would expect. And these are the kind of spots now where we get into post flop, where we're like, right, okay, we've missed, but we've got 3 to a straight, we've got 3 to a flush, we've got 1 overcard. It's the problems I have post flop in these spots is like choosing which are my best hands to c-bet that haven't improved. Because when we're 3-betting wider ranges, there's a lot of times when we just have 2 overcards or 1 overcard or just some or like just some backdoor draws and things like that. It's like you can't bet them all. We can't just have like 100% c-bet in these spots. But I guess we can have a pretty high c-bet. When I look in my database on Hold'em Manager, it seems like population in general, certainly the reg population, has way in excess of a 70%, 75% c-bet in 3-bet pots. And most of the regs I'm looking at are 75, 80%. So I definitely under c-bet in 3-bet pots, definitely way under c-bet. And it's like, for me, it's choosing the right ones. So if we had to say ace, king of hearts here, I don't think I would c-bet that. I think I would probably just check back. But I think anything with like something like this with double backdoors and 1 overcard, even though the overcard may or may not be much use to us, I think we need to start finding some bets with these. And if we get raised, if our opponent's in here with who knows what, something that wants to raise to either find out where it's at, raise to protect. If he's called out raise with Queen Jack or King Jack or Ace Jack, or maybe even something like pocket tens that decided just wants to, maybe not pocket tens, we've got a 10, but you know what I mean, some kind of like underpair to the Jack that just wants to find out where it's at. We are going to get raised here sometimes and get blown off our equity. Maybe once in a while we get raised by a pure bluff because they just don't believe this board's improved very often. But I think we just have to like factor that into our decision making process. When I say me, and just find more bets here. And I think the ace 10 makes a more than reasonable c-bet here. And it's a c-bet that I wouldn't necessarily have found in my past. We go with 1/3. An opponent calls. We get 5 of spades turn. Now this is the spot where I remember this, and I played it differently yesterday to how I would normally play it. So often in the past now with this turn, I wouldn't want to bet. I'd be too afraid that we get check shoved on or what have you, and just get all our equity denied. So routinely in this spot, I would check back, and then when we didn't improve, our opponent would usually just probe the river, and I would usually just fold. And excuse me, just finishing my coffee before it goes cold. And it's a spot that I think I was a little bit too weak tight on. Now the question I have here, and it's very easy, I could just run it in Equilab, is if we bet here, do we like have to call it off with the nut flush draw? If we were to I think if we're going to bet here, it's a big bet. I don't think it's like another small bet. I think it's kind of just like, let's just make a big bet. Let's put lots of pressure on like his hands and his made hands that are worse than Jack X. And let's just like fold all these floats out with like maybe slightly better like ace queen off, or even just his random floats, just get rid of them so he can't bluff us on the river. So I think it's like big bets only on this turn. I could be wrong on that. Maybe some of you would prefer like a smaller bet. I think the problem with going with a smaller bet, it does encourage more, maybe encourages more raises, whereas a larger bet, mind you, suppose versus a larger, if we bet big and they jam, even though we're going to be getting more priced into call, we've probably got less equity than we have versus like raising over a smaller bet, because when we like 3-bet pre-bet flop bet big turn, their range for check shoving or check raising, I guess, is going to be significantly stronger. I don't know. It's all fucking confusing, isn't it? It's all confusing. But I think it's like a spot for a big bet and then probably just call it off. Because if we bet, say, 25 here and he shoved, assuming that it covers us, that'd leave, that would put nearly 200 bigs in the pot, wouldn't it, by the time we called? We bet 25, he shoves. That's going to be 155 bigs in the pot. We're going to have to call 60 off, so we're going to be getting like nearly 2 to 1 on a call. But if we've only got live flush drawn out, it's got a 5-1 dog. So no, it's bet. Do we just have to bet big bet and fold this turn? I don't fucking know. And fortunately, it didn't come to that. But yeah, maybe it's a big bet and then fold. So if it's a big bet fold, do we big bet? Fuck knows. I haven't got a fucking clue. Answers on the postcard, please, or beneath the video. Yeah, let's encourage your comments. Yeah, let's encourage a lot of comments on this turn. Is it, what would you do? Big bet, call, big bet, fold, small bet, call, small bet, fold, check back, or whatever else. Tell me what you would do. In fact, on every hand, tell me what you would do. I want to see lots of comments. And don't get me wrong, your comment might be shit. Your advice might be fucking dreadful. So don't worry, I'm not going to take everyone's advice on board. But tell me what you would do on this particular turn card. I think we can all agree pre-flop's fine. I think we can probably mostly agree the flop's fine. This turn is where I expect people's strategies will start to diversify a little bit. What would you do? I did end up going with the big bet, but interested to see what you guys would do. We went big bet, and fortunately, if I recall correctly, our opponent folded. Yes, they folded. So next time we open the 9-8 suited. This player he's got my orange tag, but it should be green really. It should be green. The only he's got the orange tag is he plays. When he plays his sessions, he plays multiple tables. I've seen him at up to 4 tables, him or her at up to 4 tables. They're not auto topping their stack up. So maybe they're just a recreational player who likes to play lots of tables. Maybe they're someone who thinks they're a reg but isn't very good. I don't know. Basically, this is definitely not a skilled regular. As you can see by the 3-bet size out of position, this just shouldn't be a sizing. I think we have not a comfortable defend, but it's mandatory versus this, especially versus this size, in position against an opponent we deem to be pretty weak. We call, we flop ourselves 2 pair. Our opponent checks. So what are we doing here? We have bottom 2 pair versus an opponent who's 3-bet and now checked. So we have a pretty strong hand here. We're almost always ahead. But how much equity do we have? Vulnerable is our hand. For example, if an ace comes on the turn, yeah, we're still going to be ahead a lot of the time, probably. If a queen comes, are we going to be ahead a lot of the time? Probably not as much, I would imagine. But if a queen does improve our opponent, then he's probably drawing quite thin. I don't know. I think I butchered this one a little bit, to be honest with you. What size are you betting here versus his misbet? I don't think there's any argument whatsoever for checking back. But what size are you betting here versus his misbet? It feels to me that we have a very strong hand, but it's vulnerable, and we want to try and get as much money in now as we can. Quite often versus miss C bets in 3-bet pots, I think there's a very strong case to be made for just betting like 1/3 or something like that. I don't think this is like a moment for that. I could be wrong, but I think against at least a semi-recreational player, if not a full-on recreational player, who's 3-bet pre and then check this board. I think there's a strong case to be made for betting pretty big, which is what I'm going to end up doing. Because for a start, I mean, we've all seen recreational players like check shove aces here, or check raise aces, check raise ace can get pretty trappy with hands that they think are the nuts, but aren't the nuts against our holding. But what size would you go? And again, I'm presuming most people watching the video would get to the flop the same way we've got to the flop, so there's not much to talk about there. But now there is something to talk about. So on the turn, on the flop, sorry, what are we doing here? What sizing strategy are we using? And if you want to check back, then let me know why you want to check back. But I imagine most people are going to be wanting to find a bet here, and the only argument or the only point of discussion is what size are we going to go? I ended up going full pot, which I think might be a slight overplay. I guess I was just hoping that this would force him into like a into jamming with a lot of worse hands that kind of I don't know. I guess I just wanted to not see any shit turn cards come off. Any black one, any ace, any king. Basically any card over a 10. 10 or above is probably not a great card for us. A black one's not a great one for us. I guess I didn't want to. This wasn't an attempt to make him fold. I definitely wanted some value for my hand. I guess I just wanted to try and. I guess I was just getting greedy versus his. Versus his, I don't fucking know. Versus a very narrow part of his range, I can continue. I guess what this bet does, it just makes it easier for him to fold a lot of stuff, which we don't really want him folding. Yeah, I think this is definitely a mistake by me. So, what size would you guys have gone? I think this is not probably, almost definitely a mistake. Now, this one isn't a 3-bet pot. This is literally a spam hand to show you just how soft these games are. This is the same player from the last time. We're just going to run through this one very quickly. This one is pure spam, but let's have a look at just how amusing this hand is. So this guy's donked half pot on 646 or 664. We've raised. He's called. Turns a 10. He's checked. We've bet really big. He's called. We've bet his jack. We've gone all in. And watch how quickly this guy calls. Just watch how quickly he calls. Boom. Boom. There you go. The call is in. And that was just holding. So, yeah, these games, they are... I mean, the regs aren't brilliant. There's that literally have come across one reg so far who I think, yeah, you're definitely better than me. There's a handful of regs who I think, probably similar sort of standard to me. And then there's a lot of regs that are just worse than me and then players like this. So yeah, these games, this is the one and only spam hand in this video. But yeah, if you were wondering, or not if you're wondering, but if you're looking for some evidence that the games are soft, then there's a piece of evidence there for you. Or soft enough, shall we say. Back onto the serious stuff. We have the Ace-5 suited, and yeah, I've been using an RNG. I'm not even sure I'm using it correctly because I don't know the fucking frequencies properly. But I rolled for 3-bet or 3-bet or call here, never fold. And I think I rolled for something like, I don't know, fucking 40% 3-bet, 60% call, something like that. And obviously on this occasion, we must have rolled a 3-bet or we wouldn't be in here. So we go with the 3-bet to 13 big blinds, which I think is completely fine versus a 3 big blind. I think we could even go 14, especially with the ante in play. I think 13 is at the smallest we probably want to go here versus 3x and with an ante. We got 13. We get a 10-10 king flop. 5 my deal for our hand, but in terms of do we just want to range bet this flop? I mean, I guess we probably fucking do. And then maybe barrel turns that improve our equity. I wouldn't be super keen on barreling a queen or a jack. I certainly wanted to barrel red ones. And I think we're going to get not that many folds on the flop because we're going to want to bet pretty small here. I don't think we're going to get many folds on the flop. So this is again a spot where when I'm not playing well, I just routinely give up. I don't want to bet the flop which is not going to fold, and I know I'm not going to barrel a turn much, so I'm just not going to barrel. I'm just not going to bet the flop and make life easy for my opponent. This is typically a spot where I would have made life very easy for my opponent by just not betting flop. Even though I know there aren't that many turn cards I can barrel, I think we should still see bet this flop with a very high frequency. And this is where my mental game or my overall strategy was flawed in the past because I would look at this board and think, yeah, this is an easy c-bet. But then because I'm not going to be able to barrel many turns or not going to feel like I can barrel many turns, and I don't think our opponent's going to fold to our flop c-bet, then what's the point in fucking c-betting the flop? And that's where my thoughts would take me. and trying to like overcome those thoughts and just like do the right thing on each street and take each street as it comes, rather than think ahead and not do something on one street because of I don't want to do the next thing on the next street. So yeah. Anyways, yeah. That's my thought. I think this is a mandatory C bet, and I don't think we need to go very big on this board. I know a lot of people like to go 1/3 pot. I'm a tight cunt. I think mostly, especially out of position in 3-bet pots, I prefer going around a quarter, even 20% pot, because I just do. It's hard to explain why. I don't think there's a lot of difference here. If we go 8 blinds or say 6 blinds, I don't think it makes a huge difference on the way our opponent continues in the hand. Just when we're out of position, it's cheaper. If it's not going to change very much about our opponent's continuing range, then why not make it a little bit cheaper? And it doesn't prevent us when we got value. If we were to bet, just say 6 blinds here and he called, then we get to the turn. Just say we had, I don't know, fucking kings full or 10x or what have you. We bet 6 blinds, he calls us 37 bigs in the pot, and there is 80 behind. So we get to the turn still with an SPR of just 2. It doesn't prevent us getting all the money in. So I don't think sizing is super important here, but I think finding the bet far more frequently than I used to is important. So I'm going to end up betting here, I would imagine. And I'm probably not very big, no, just like 20% pot. I have no issue with that. Some of you guys might have a big issue with it. I don't. Our opponent raises here, and I was very, very sus about this raise. I was like, really, mate? Really? What, I don't understand what you would want to raise here. I had this guy, he's got my red tag as a regular. Again, I think he's another regular that bad reg at best. And I include myself as a bad reg, by the way. So please, if you ever watch this Legendary Beagle, don't take that as like disparaging. Because if I had to classify myself, I would say, yeah, shit reg. Reg, you are a shit reg. You do okay, but you're in a bad reg. And, so when I say someone else is a bad reg, it's not necessarily meant to be. It's not meant to be uncomplimentary. It's just a way of defining a player, isn't it? I contemplated all options here. Folding didn't feel great. Calling didn't feel great. 3-betting felt like, just do it, Reg. Just do it. Just make it like 35, 36 big, something like that. Because it just didn't make sense that somebody would want to raise here. No, I mean, the problem, I guess, with 3-bet, King X ain't folding, 10X ain't folding. The only things that are folding are maybe if he's just testing the waters with a pocket pair, which I think this raise is doing quite often. I think this raise is quite often like pocket 8s, pocket 9, well, any pocket pair, basically. Testing the water. I think like queens and jacks probably just call. I don't think ace jack and ace queen do this because you can just call again. So this to me feels like bluff or like it's just pure bluff, kind of, or pocket pairs turn themselves into bluffs with the occasional bit of value smattered in there. But generally speaking, I tend not to think these raises are too value heavy. So I actually think 3-bet here would be quite good. But again, what would we actually 3-bet? If I had kings full, not 3-betting. If I had pocket 10s, not 3-betting. If I had pocket aces, not 3-betting. So that 3-bet also looks like pretty bullshitty. But I guess the downside of this is if our opponent is just like bluffing or testing the waters here, when he gets called, is he going to continue bluffing the turn? So therefore, should we just 3-bet our entire continuing range? Because how often realistically are people continuing bluffing here on turns? If we had like quad 10s or kings full or 10x, how often would we call this flop and then check and expect our opponent to continue bluffing on the turn, the 3-bet pot? I don't know. I think 3-betting here, like theoretically, is very unsound because we don't have very much value. And a lot of that just wants to call to theoretically keep his bluffs in, even though in practice, I don't think people barrel off here very often after having a raise called on this flop. So yeah, I think it's where, like, in my opinion, theory and practice, theory and reality kind of like separate. Because I think in theory we should never three bet here. I think in practice, three bet in a hand, especially like this with some backdoor equity, isn't bad. But let's see what I went on and did. I ended up folding, but I actually think we could have three bet there. And I assume many of you guys will disagree. On to the next time. We have an ace king. We have this guy. First time I've ever seen him. He was playing at every table, but he wasn't reloading at every table. He had like varying stacks. At one table he only had like 68 big blinds. So again, someone who was playing like 4 tables, but clearly not a proper regular, because it's the first time I've been on the site 10 days. I don't remember seeing him before. And secondly, he wasn't topping up. So multi-tabling, semi-reg, who knows? Wouldn't know how to define him really, but obviously we're going to 3-bet again because that's why it's in there. So we're looking at these hands. So we go with the 3-bet to 13 big blinds again. Not sure if we should be making 14 versus 3x. If anyone's got any opinions on that, versus a 3x open with antis in play, a full table, an extra half a big blind in there, should we be going 14 big blinds rather than 13 big blinds with our 3 bets? Anyways, that's for another day. We get the ace king x flop, and again, very consistent. We're going with the 5.5x again. C bet size of like 20% pot or so. Our opponent calls. So now we get the 10 on the turn. Shouldn't change too much, really. You know, yeah, some hands improve past us now, pocket 10 specifically and jack queen. But, you know, we can't be scared of shit like that. I mean, if he's got that, he's got that. I mean, we're still very deep, which is a little bit concerning. Because if we bet this turn and get raised, when we've still got like 140 big blinds to play for, it's uncomfortable. But we also don't want to be checking and giving free cards. So I guess the question here is like, what size? And should we get raised, how are we going to proceed? And that's too much of a broad question to answer hypothetically, because it would depend on a lot of things. If we bet big and we get raised, how do we proceed? If we block and get raised, how do we proceed? If we block and we get raised all in, how do we proceed versus if we block and get min raised? So there's too many vagaries there to like get into it. But I guess the question here is like, what size are you continuing here? And with your size, then if you were to be raised, then how would you proceed against that? So think of the size you would do, and then think about what you would do if you were raised. And then if you can be asked, leave a comment. I don't remember this hand in terms. I remember the hand, but I don't remember the hand in terms of like what size I go here. But if I were playing the hand again now, I think I would go round 2/3 pot and be feeling relatively uncomfortable. If we get called, I'd be loving it. But I'd be while his time bank was ticking down, I'd be like, oh, just don't raise, mate. Just don't raise. Just call or fold, call or fold, call or fold. So let's see what I do in the moment. I go slightly bigger than, not massively bigger, but slightly bigger. I don't have an issue with his size. Maybe we could go a little bit smaller, because I don't usually want to get all the money in here. I don't mind getting all the money if we go bet heat calls, bet heat, jam river. I don't mind getting the money in that way, but we're not going to be able to do that, and you know, because there's too much money behind. Unless we just overbet jam the river. Who knows? Anyways, we did that, and opponent folded, and we move on. Aces. I like aces. They seem to be relatively uncomplicated. So he's the same player from the last hand. As you can see at this table, he's only got 60 bigs. He's min raced under the gun. We 3-bet 2 7 big blinds. Could go slightly bigger, but due to his stack size, I don't think we needed to. And we get this guy. Now, I'm relatively familiar with this guy. He seems pretty damn active pre-flop. And kind of quite timid post-flop. Not totally timid, but relatively timid. This strikes me as a player who has, like, probably studied pre-flop pretty well. Or has some charts to one side pre-flop, which, isn't, you know, I guess a lot of people use charts pre-flop when they're playing. I personally don't have an issue with it. What can you do to stop it? It's one of the things you can't police it, so you can't stop people having charts and using them. I guess this is like, I'm not saying this guy in particular has charts, because I don't know, and that wouldn't be fair to say, but he plays a far better pre-flop game than he does post-flop, which typically tells me either someone studied pre-flop really well and hasn't bothered to learn post-flop, or they studied pre-flop pretty well and then they just haven't got the skills to deal with the post-flop problems that their pre-flop strategy gives them, or they haven't studied it really well. They're just using charts, and then post-flop they get into spots they just can't handle. And again, I'm not saying this guy's doing any of those things. Please don't think I'm saying that, because I'm not. But I suspect there's many, many regs out there who are using pre-flop charts. And given that during the Granu Polk Challenge, they discussed using charts and then decided not to. That tells me a lot of players are using charts pre-flop to help them with their decisions. And as I said, I don't have an issue with it, because what can you do? You can't police against it. It doesn't matter what software you have on your site to protect players against people using. You can't do it. For example, you can't use charts pre-flop. Okay, well, what are you going to do to stop me then? There's a lot of browser-based tools now where you can use charts. I'm sure that if I'm playing and I've got like a bot running that's telling me what to do, yeah, your software's going to detect that, and that's clearly wrong. That's real-time assistance, etc. And you can do that, and you can stop me. You can actually police that. But yeah, and maybe you can be like, right, well, okay, well, you've got a browser open. You're not allowed to look at what's on my browser, because that's fucking private. So first of all, you can't actually police it. And even if you could be like, well, tell you what, we're going to look at your fucking browser, and if you are looking at fucking charts, you can get in the fucking bin, and we can get rid of you. Well, fine. I'll just have my fucking phone open with charts on, or my iPad with charts on. It's just impossible to police. So therefore, don't make it a rule that you can't use charts. As simple as that. So yeah, I have no issue with anyone using charts. I've been known to use them in the past. I may be known to use them again in the future. You can't police it. What are you going to do about it? Crack on. So anyway, yeah. This guy, basically, his pre-flop game is a lot more challenging than his post-flop game. A lot harder to play against. So with that in mind, this guy does have quite a lot of. It's quite active pre-flop. Even though it's a cold 4-bet, it's like, do we just rip it in his face here, or do we flat and then force him to play his relatively wide range out of position against us? And what other hand would I want to flat here versus a cold 4-bet? Probably not too many, I guess. So this is like just a simple pre-flop question. Do we flat and just take it to the streets post-flop? Probably never intending to fold. Or do we just rip it in his face now? Because how often do people cold 4-bet fold? That was the question that was going through my mind. Let's see what I ended up doing. I think either's fine, by the way. I don't have an issue with flatting or trap him at trap base, goes with the flat, then instantly regrets it when he gets like a monotone king queen flop. Like, oh dear, might be in trouble here. Now he checks to us. It's like, right, this is a spot that not many of us find ourselves in. To cold 4-bet pot where we've called and we've trapped with aces and we've got king queen x mono. We do not have the suit. I'm sure there's a solution to this particular hand, to this particular situation. I don't know what it is. What would you do? I mean, I think we have a pretty clear bet. We do not want to just risk another heart coming off here and, getting us. What size? Versus an opponent who's like pretty aggro pre and pretty passive post flop, and you get this flop in a cold 4-bet pot. What are you doing? This is what Reg did. I've no idea if this is right or not. I haven't got the fucking first idea. I don't think it can be bad, but whether it's good or not, I don't know. I ended up going with more than half pot. If he had a hand, if he has like a king in his hand here, with or without a heart, I want value and I want protection, etc. I didn't feel it was appropriate to go with the small bet on this board texture. I know people like going small on monotone boards. I don't. Certainly not with a hand like this anyway. So I went that size. That could be totally shit. He snap folded. there you go. I think we know what's going to happen here. We're going to 3-bet. We 3-bet to 13 bigs from the big blind. Our opponent calls. We get another flop where I don't love c-betting. And another spot where previous incarnations of me would not have c-bet here. Look at this flop and I'd be like, oh shit, Just see all the bad news, right? He's probably got 9s and 8s just pure. Maybe he's got jacks almost pure. He's definitely got Queen 10 suited, all combinations. Maybe he's got some Jack 9 suited, some 8-9 suited. I just look at this board and think my opponent hits this in so many ways. Give up red jaw, just check, try and see a turn, etc. I think that's too weak. It stinks to bet and get raised here, but it's not the worst. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But yeah, what are you doing here? I mean, it seems like it's a far better board for an opponent than it is us. We don't have 9-8. I don't think we do anyway. I know I'd say almost certainly don't. We probably don't have Jack 9. In fact, we have probably... Well, I know how I play, and I don't think I 3-bet 8s very often here. And maybe have 9s. I always have jacks. Maybe have some 9s, but not all of them. And I don't have Queen 10 suited. So this is like... For me personally, this is not a good board for my range. I don't know how good it is really for big blind 3-bet versus cut-off open range. But it feels like it's a significant range advantage for this player here. So therefore, should we even be betting here? And I think I'm going to go ahead and bet. But upon review now, should we even be betting here? Should we just be checking our entire range? It does feel like we're at a significant range disadvantage. So yeah, actually, I know I'm going to go ahead and bet this. I actually, upon review, and I think it's quite a poor bet. I think we should just be checking our entire range here. Go on, Reg. You did check. Go on, Reg. I am happy with that because I thought I'd c-bet all these hands. So I thought we were looking at most of them. Really happy with that check. Our opponent bets. We have, in my opinion, a pretty clear call here. Raising doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We pick up some backdoors on some turns. We can make not the nuts, but if it were to come a 7 or a queen, I'd be relatively happy stacking off. In fact, I'd be incredibly happy stacking off. We had the backdoor clubs, of course. Maybe once in a while we hit an ace and it's good. We call. Turn a straight with a flush. So now, given that we had a pretty big raise disadvantage on the flop, how's this equalise that much? That do we now have some stronger stuff? Because we probably have King 10 suited at some frequency. We have pocket queens that would play this way at some frequency. Do we have Jack Queen? Don't know. But I think it feels like it's equalised it a little bit. Whether it's equalised enough that we can start leading this turn, I don't know. I mean, I want to lead here because we've got a straight and we've got a flush, and I would hate for this board to check through. But that's because we have a straight and we can make the nut flush, and we don't want it to check through. Is that enough reason to just play out a floor and lead this turn card? I do think our opponent's going to check back with anything that isn't a straight. Maybe, some random spewy bluffs continue. But if our opponent has any 2 pairs or any sets on the flop, he's almost certainly going to check back this turn with a very high frequency. And I don't want that. I guess you know what I'm leading up to. I lead this turn, but I don't know if that's a good thing to do or not. Is it just a little bit too face up to lead this turn? Is our opponent going to... I don't think they can fold. If we lead this turn, they've got... Maybe they can fold a hand 8-9, Jack 9. But they're not going to fold a set. But does it make too many Jack 9, 8-9s type hands fold? I don't know. I ended up leading, though, because I felt it was just going to check through way too frequently if I didn't. I ended up going just over half pot. Our opponent calls. We river the absolute nuts. And now we just have a crystal clear jam. which is what we did. An opponent folded. So I guess the decision point there is a turn. How many of you guys are leading there versus how many of you guys are checking through? And if you are checking through, what's your reasons for checking through? I think I've covered the reasons for leading, value, build the pot so we can shove rivers, don't want to check through, etc. But if you are wanting to check that turn because you think it's too, well, I'm not going to tell you the reasons. If you wanted to check that turn and leave in the comments below why you wanted to check that turn, because I'd be interested to hear the arguments for it. We have the same player as earlier, who with the aces in the 4-bet pot. He opens. I presume we're going to go 13 bigs here. Yep, 13 bigs it is. And opponent 4-bets, true to form. I did say he was a pretty aggro fucker pre-flop. So King Queen suited here. I have no idea. We just got. Oh, I wonder what that noise was. Just my fucking smart speaker talking to me again for some reason. I'll just let her finish. Right, that's that fucking stopped. So getting back to this, what do we do here? Do we? I guess against someone who is as active as this guy is pre-flop. I guess we have some jams with this hand. Not very many, I wouldn't imagine, but some jams. I guess we have some folds and some calls. I have no idea what frequency to do any of it, though. I've literally no fucking clue. How often do we jam here? How often do we call? How often do we fold? Absolutely no fucking idea. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. But let's see what I ended up doing. So I called. Yeah, I'm just going to check fold now, I guess. But yeah, pre-flop there against somebody with the image that I have described. What's your plan? Very active pre-flop, not very active post-flop. He almost certainly will have some light 4-bets, I would imagine. Especially in this configuration of button versus big blind. So what would you do versus someone who you know for certain has some light, or you don't know for certain, but you're very confident is capable of 4-betting light? What are you doing with the King Queen suited Urupi? Nah, yeah, we just check fold here. Nothing to be said really. Move along, Wedge. Move on to the next one. So we've got the same player we've played twice against already in this video. Possible fish, certainly bad reg. And then we have another bad reg. We're clearly going to go with the squeeze. Otherwise, why would this be in here? Not big enough. Not big enough. I think we need to go bigger there. Not sure why I've just gone to 13. I think we want to be going 15 or 16 here. In a squeeze situation. Not happy with the 13 big blinds. Get 2 calls, flop 2 pairs. Not too interesting, I guess, other than when it checks to us. What size are we going to? Multi-way 3-bet pot, and we've got top 2 pair. So everything's nice. We block the shit out of the board. What size? Because again, this is a relatively uncommon spot. And I guess I didn't know, and I still don't know what size to go here. We've got an SPR of just about 2 in terms of our stack size. I have no idea. What size do we go? Do we just go small? Do we just go like quarter pot, 10 blinds? Do we just hope someone's got ace-X and go larger so we can just like have really easy turn shoves? So do we just go like maybe 18 blinds? Because let's face it, how often are we going to be bluffing this ball? When we bet, how many bluffs are we going to have? Not fucking many, I wouldn't imagine. So our range is going to be so heavily comprised of value. This is really much point to going small when we just barely have any bluffs. Or should we just go bigger? Should we just go like 20 bigs and then shove turns? Or like 22 bigs, 24 bigs, shove turns? So I think it's one or the other. I think it's either bet really small, but I don't really see the point in that. I guess it gets value from pocket jacks that don't want to fold just yet, pocket tens, etc. We bet quarter pot. Maybe we get one crying call from pocket tens for default the turn. Or we can, I don't fucking know. What size are you going? Let's see what size red you in. I ended up going with the just over half pot. And we got two folds. So I guess the argument said that bet was too big. But if either player had an ace, then we were getting action, I guess. So yeah, that's a weird spot where we've squeezed pre, we had two callers, and we've smashed the board. So what's that? I mean, it's not a spot we need to really study and think about too much because it's not a spot we're in very often. But just out of interest, what size would you guys have gone on that hand? King, queen, offsuit. Clearly going to 3-bet. Yeah, I would have rolled for this because this isn't a pure 3-bet for me. So I definitely would have rolled for this because sometimes I think we can just call here. We go with the 3-bet. Villain calls. We flop ourselves second pair. Again, this is a spot where I think we just have to range bet with a very high frequency. Don't love it because we have we have some showdown value, and how often are we getting called by worse hands here? I mean, a lot of my old school logic is that we have showdown value. How often are we going to get a worse hand to call? Not very often. How often are we going to get a better hand to fold? Never. So therefore, just check. But that you start checking, this guy starts betting. When do you start thinking about getting away from your hand? So I'm going to imagine I'm just going to range bet here, and again I'm going to imagine we're going to be in the 5.5 big blind region, which is what we do. But I'm not sure about this. I think from a theory perspective, just range betting small this board, it's obviously fine. But I don't know. I mean, I guess this is just the best course of action to take. Our opponent folds, so we move on. But yeah, that bet, I'm not really sure. I don't know about that spot because what does the bet achieve? It just folds out his air, doesn't it? But do we want his air to stay in the pot? Because his air might start trying to bluff us, and his air might succeed in bluffing us. So do we just want him to fold his air so he can't use it to bluff us? I guess that's what we're trying to achieve there. Just fold out air so we can't get bluff later in the hand. This might be the last hand of the video. I'm not sure. We go with the 3-bet. We get a cold call. We get our friend again. He's now gone with the 30 big blind squeeze, which is completely fine, obviously, due to what's happened so far in the hand. 2 big blind open, 7 big blind 3-bet, and a cold call. Now, we just trapped this guy earlier with the aces in a similar but not identical spot because it was the same spot, except this guy wasn't in the pot or this position. It was min raise, 3-bet, cold 4-bet. This has gone min raise, 3-bet, cold call. Cold 4-bet. Do we think this changes this guy's range much? Does the presence of this guy cold calling make his frequency decrease slightly and his range strengthen? Or do we think players like this still just fucking use the same range regardless of whether this guy's in the pot or not? So last time we were in this situation, we just called, but we were closing the action pre-flop. And we were going to have position post-flop, guaranteed position post-flop. This time, we're not closing the action pre-flop. And if this guy comes along, we're not guaranteed to close the action. We're not guaranteed to be in position post-flop either. So does that push us into just wanting to rip this hand now? I mean, clearly we're never folding. But do we want to rip? Do we want to rip this 100% of the time? Do we ever have any flats here? With I'd probably want to trap aces here again at some frequency. Probably quite a high one, knowing me. But because we want to trap aces, do we then sometimes want to throw some traps in here, some calls in here with ace king suited too? Or do we just want to rip our entire range here? Does everything want to rip? Are we just playing jam or fold? It's the last hand of the video. Let's see what Reggie did. I did go with the rip, it seems. That opponent folded quite quickly, and yeah, that is the last hand of the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this format, and particularly focusing in on one particular part of the game. I think 3 bets for now. I think it's a good thing to focus on because it's probably pre-flops. As daft as it sounds, I've been playing poker a very long time. I think pre-flop is, causing me, or has been causing me, some problems lately because I just haven't been playing pre-flop well, because of as I've talked about earlier, because of the games I've been in where they're just they've been incredibly passive, lots of limping, also lots of players that just have dribbling stacks between 25 to 40 bigs, so I think basically the games I've been playing on iPoker, how passive they play and how many short stacks there are in those games. And before that, Triple Eight, where the games are relatively tight, passive, and there's plenty of short stacks in there, it's kind of it's fucked my pre-flop game up quite a lot. So I think pre-flop's been letting me down a lot lately. And then when I've carried my weak pre-flop play into sites where, as you see on this site, there's very rarely short stacks. Most players tend to buy in for 100 bigs, and if they're short, it's just because their stacks dribbled down. There's no quote-unquote pro short stackers I've found on this site so far, which is another beautiful thing about it. So I think it's important if I'm going to play here, and I do intend to continue playing here because so far my results have been excellent. It's important that I get back on top of my pre-flop game and make it much sharper than it has been. So I think it's a good idea for me to make these videos because, number one, it helps me to talk through, it helps me to review what I've done so I can see if I'm making any consistent mistakes. Number two, it helps me to talk things out on a video. Number three, hopefully it helps some of you guys with your games because, we're all bad dregs, aren't we? And we all probably have similar problems. So hopefully it encourages some comments, and the video does well. Hopefully it encourages some of you guys to get involved, and I can, if not take some of the things you advise me to do on board and then implement into my game, if I think it's what someone's saying is pretty bad, it will help me get in the mind of or understand more what other players are thinking, whether I agree or disagree with them. It's nice to get an understanding what other players think about similar spots, so you can interpret that, so you can incorporate what other players might be doing into your games. So if several players all say the same thing that I'd never thought of, it gives me food for thought. If one person replies something that I think, oh, man, that's bad, then it helps me understand sometimes what some other players are thinking too. So it helped me formulate opinions going forward against different player types. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed making it, and I'll certainly be doing some more this week. But for now, I guess we're going to leave it there, apart from just say, if you've liked the look of the site, it's the first time you've seen the site, and you like the look of the games, even though you haven't seen much of them in this video because it's just been all 3-bet pots, then please do reach out and I can help you get into these games, get you an extra 10% rate back on top of the site's standard rate back, and if you're a hardcore grinder, can maybe even get you up to 50% rate back if you meet some relatively easy to achieve volume requirements. So yeah, if you want to play on the site, reach out, get in touch. I hope the video hasn't been too spammy. It certainly hasn't been my intention to make it spammy. Take care, everybody. We'll be back probably, I imagine, Wednesday, but who knows. I'm going to try and get 3 videos out this week. One's definitely going to be coming out on Thursday. Friday's not going to be coming out because I work Friday mornings. So there'll either be one more video this week on Wednesday or Thursday, or if there's a video tomorrow, there could be another one Thursday. But keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully there'll be at least 2 more videos coming before the weekend. But we'll leave it there for now. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Have a good day. Stay safe, and bye-bye for now.